Okay, this is at the end of my third wash really, and let's just remind ourselves why we're even making this step with the acrylic. Remember, we didn't want to leave white paper because of the washes we were doing. That was the first option. We didn't want to use masking fluid because it would have worked, but I just didn't want to use it. So the third option for us was to use a body paint, acrylic or gouache, to add the white. Why do we even have to do that? We have to do it because watercolour goes from light to dark. And if we were to put a white watercolour on top of that, then what's underneath, it's transparent, what's underneath would come through. So we have to resort to some sort of different technique to get the white if we haven't left the paper. And it's in this case it's going to be acrylic and maybe a jelly roll pen, we'll see. Now, as I review this third wash, remember that the final stage is the finalising, and that's where we're going to put the white in. But also we think to ourselves, what can we do? And for me, the hollyhock jumble, it's too straight there. I need to add more green there and maybe more jutting out into the window. So I'm going to do some of that. And I'm going to go for the white. So I'll go for the white first. I'm actually going to put a little bit of acrylic in my palette. There we go. That's enough. I'm going to get my #1 rigger. I'm going to get some cobalt violet and put it there, and then mix that into the acrylic. That's a bit wet, so let's get let's get my brush dry, because I want it to be quite opaque. I don't want what's underneath to come through. So we'll put the white flower there, 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 there. We'll create a jumble of hollyhock petals. I think that's what they are. A lot of Turner's paintings, you'll see them, if you see them where they are, it'll say watercolour and body colour, and body colour is an opaque white, usually a gouache for Turner. It wouldn't have been acrylic anyway, let's put it that way. A guy who I think leaves the paper white when he wants white in a painting better than anyone I've ever seen is John Yardley. He leaves white paper beautifully. He's an artist you want to look up, John Yardley. You probably know him. A guy who's a master of the masking fluid is David Curtis. He uses masking fluid a lot, and he uses it very well. And a couple of guys who are very good at adding the white afterwards, Joseph Zurbukovic, Australian lovely watercolour artist. All of these are beautiful watercolour artists. And Alvaro Castagnier, who I mentioned earlier. So they all solve the problem of white in very much their own way. Let me just get I might be overdoing that, but let's just do that just to I'll lengthen the shadows on here. Okay. Not unhappy with that. Now I did say that I thought it was just too straight there and too straight there, so I'm going to actually add a little bit of yellow in there and a little bit of maybe, well, let's go for Prussian blue. Prussian blue. Mix a green. A bit more yellow in it. Let's get a bit of yellow there. Add a bit of white into that. Make a real light. That's better, I think. Okay, I'm going to need some more shadow colour. I'll probably go for my number 4. Or should I go for my 2 rigger? I'll go for my 2 rigger. I don't like to be too fussy, but I will. And I'm going to get some of the Bins of Violet, Burnt Sienna, just a touch of the Cobalt Blue, and then I'll dry a bit lighter. I'm trying to convince myself now. Really get those flowers to pop out of there. This finalising step, you don't always have to do it. Like I think I'm committed to this darker shadow now, but I think I'm glad I did. Time will tell. A lot of blue in that one, a bit of very blue mix. Don't think it matters. Don't think it matters. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm glad I did it. I do think I am, but you never know, do you? Have you noticed? Sometimes you do a painting and you think it's great, and you look at it a day later and you think, oh my goodness, that's terrible. And the opposite happens. You think, oh, I've got this wrong, but then a day later, for some reason, it looks very different. Right, I'm going to get a dark green, so I'll get some Prussian blue into that mix. And a little bit of raw sienna. A little bit more Prussian blue. Get quite a dark green. Just don't want to overdo it. Bit of cobalt blue and a bit more magenta. Too much magenta. I do spend a long time trying to get my mixes right and just darken that a little bit. Bit of raw sienna in there. Just right, now my white flowers, the acrylic we used, looks about dry, but I'm going to make sure it is dry before I put the cobalt violet in.